hanging.
Good God! I got to ask you what we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. AG, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks, Armstrong.
CW, how are you?
Blessed.
Blessed. Maxie, how are you today? Maxie. Maybe that's an old message. I was excited when I saw Maxie in the queue. Milo, how are you today? I think half our posse is missing.
They'll pick up the slack.
Oh Lord.
They'll be here.
So listen, we were having a discussion. And AG mentioned something. Tell us what the definition, from your perspective and growing up and where you are today in life, when someone says, I'm broke. You coined a new phrase. What was that phrase you coined? Get to the mic, man. What was that phrase you just coined?
Which one, Don?
About broke. You said something. What did he say, CW? You remember what he said? What did he say?
He pretty much said, I forgot the exact word, but it made me
I've been broken
laugh.
and broke. I know what it's like to be broke. Something he said. So talk about, it's just the energy that came with that. Milo, Maxie, it's okay. Talk to us about being broke. Define that, what that means. And listen to this AG, they don't know anything else, so nobody can get up in your...
Being broke, wow. From my perspective, being broke is being, how old was I? I was like 12, and my mother only had $32 in her bank account, and tuition and rent was right around the corner, and the electricity and the water would due, and numerous other bills were due. But being resourceful was paying them off in the next 2 weeks, while only having $32. But that's being broke to me, is when everything seems short, family members are too far to help, or they're also broke too at the moment and can't help you, and you only have, what is that, a Jackson and a Hamilton to rub together?
So listen, so your mother shared that with you? She kept you
Because she told me that
They
anything I
say we
want,
too
I
low.
have
They,
to
they
work
can't
for it.
hear us. This is funny. We had this problem earlier today.
Really,
I-
some technical issues.
I don't know. They keep saying that they're too low to hear us. But keep talking.
But yeah, that's my perspective of being broke. My mother.
Hello,
shared that-
hello,
my mother-
Milo, Maxie.
I hear you.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
You were hearing me fine before.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Milo. Welcome to the show. So you're hearing what the guys are saying, right?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Okay, continue because we're going to talk about. Go ahead. Being broke. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's my perspective of being broke. My mother shared that with me to tell me that anything that I want, especially money, I have to go out and get it. And so she wanted me to know that this is what broke feels like, and that you shouldn't ever want to feel like this again. Which I agree. I never ever want to feel like that again, because that was one of the scariest times in my life. Thought I was actually going to be homeless, but thankfully we pulled through with that.
That's real life. Broke to me, it's funny because growing up, I went to a public school and I thought that I was pretty all right compared to everyone else. But I realized how broke I was once I switched to a private school. And certain things that my friends were able to do, I wasn't able to do. And not that it was a issue of being broke, but like I said, my parents, they had their money. But when it came to Charlton wanting to take trips to Greece with his friends and XYZ, that's when the brokenness came out. You know, my mom would explain to me, son, there's a difference between you and your friends right now. You're broke. And that's when it became very apparent.
Yeah, that I had the same talk with my parents. I went to private schools, so, you know, I was around a lot of well-to-do kids as well. And on the weekends, everybody would be going home to their country houses. And I went home one day. I was young, so, you know, naive. I didn't understand. I said, Mom, where's our country house? And she said, it's down in the Virgin Islands. We just can't get to it yet. We'll get there. Relax.
So listen. How did it impact you, the way you lived, and going to school, seeing the opulence of their wealth and how they lived and the choices they had? Did it have any kind of psychological effect on you?
Well, my mother always made sure that I never forget where I came from. So she made sure that I knew that what kind of education I'm getting, but also where I came from in my background. We didn't come from affluent family. Everything we worked for, everything was a reward for our hard work. So my mother made sure that as I know the wealth and the high life, I also know what to aspire to want out of life in terms of wealth and how I should work towards it.
I definitely had an interesting dynamic growing up. My dad's side of the family was pretty all right, pretty well off. They owned some property. They had good jobs for the government. My grandfather worked for NASA. On my mom's side, they were the side that was on the lower end of the spectrum. Like I said, they grew up in a project in D.C., but legend has it that my grandfather was a well-to-do guy in the neighborhood and would definitely give money to those in the neighborhood that needed help. But, you know, broke to me was a mentality. So that's why I may not have had the money, but when it came to me thinking I was broke, I never really saw myself as broke, you know, which is why now sometimes I have a cousin that tells me I'm the brokest rich guy he knows, because I may operate as if I do have certain things when it comes to like certain wealth, but at the same time I cannot afford to do, you know, take certain trips or buy certain material things. But, you know, when it comes to my overall mindset, I do have a wealthy mindset and a wealthy view of myself, but it has nothing necessarily to do with money directly, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well,
I think you just hit it on the head. Broke is a state of mind.
No,
And it's all relative.
No.
It broke
Wait a minute.
it
It's
was
more than
never
a
a
state of
mindset.
mind.
Yeah.
It's more than that. I'm sorry. I'm listening. It is more than a state of mind. Okay? What I'm hearing here is real life. Now, you may change the state of mind when you make some money and you can help your family. But until then, you're dreaming about your state of mind and how you change your circumstance.
it was never
You know something, Armstrong? We all go through ebbs and flows economically. You know, I don't remember who the comic was, but one of our famous black comics did a stand-up joke about, you know, if Bill Gates woke up with Oprah's money, he'd jump off a bridge. And it illustrated the relative nature of the psychology of broke. You look at the true entrepreneur, and the true entrepreneur can be down to his last dollar, and he still sees the opportunity to be made with that dollar, which is why he ends up never really being broke. But we all go through ebbs and flows. That's part of the process.
Were you ever broke growing up? Where you had no money?
Growing up, no. Absolutely not. I mean,
you don't. You can't relate to it.
Well, hang on. You asked me growing up, and growing up, I was never broke. My father was a very affluent physician. My mother was a successful educator and political administrator. No, I was never broke as a child. But when I moved out of my home and I had businesses, I was almost wiped out in '89 on the verge of bankruptcy. And I rebuilt from scratch.
But that's different. That's different. You grew up in a culture of business. You grew up with a mindset that gave you the strength and the capacity to know because you built it, you could build it again. A lot of people, when they grow up in poverty or poor, there's always this insecurity that they're going to lose it, that someone's going to take it back. It's not going to be successful for them. That was never your issue. You only lost what you lost because you were being an entrepreneur. There's a different mindset.
You make my point then. Broke is a state of mind. The economics of broke are fluid. They ebb, they flow, they adjust. Broke is a state of mind, and you just supported my argument when you said that the difference in my experience was that as an entrepreneur, I've always had the confidence that which I lose, I can reconstruct. But that is a state of mind, Armstrong. And the sooner we teach people that broke is a state of mind, the defeatist and depressive psychology of broke will be easier for them to overcome.
Let me just say this to you, because I'm really listening to these young men. I'm hearing things that I really have never really thought about deeply before. Now look, when you grow up in a culture of entrepreneurship, not where you dream about being an entrepreneur, but you grew up. My parents were entrepreneurs. They were very successful entrepreneurs. And they gave us choices. Everything in my life, from childhood to what I am today, was influenced by the early years, before I ever turned 16, as far as I am. In fact, I had the mindset and the confidence and the real self-esteem before I ever finished high school. High school, just no question, I was going to bust every test. I was going to do well, and I was going to be successful. Why? Because not only did my father talk about entrepreneur and success, he introduced me to people like Strom Thurmond. He felt I needed to be in Washington, so he sent someone here to find me a place, and he made sure I had the right job with the right person. I had a serious foundation. Many young people don't have that today, but their parents have that kind of vision, a foresight, a contact to make that happen, and we're coming back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For more information on The Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home? or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
It's no different than how you're preparing your children today, Milo. They will have opportunities just being around you, watching you struggle. No difference than watching the conflict between you and your wife at times. They learn how to navigate relationships. Watching you struggle as a businessman, you're building that character. A lot of young people never get a chance to see that. All they see is strife. They see despair. They see lack of food. They never see someone getting up in the morning, going to a job. They see the government coming along. They see babies and paddle feet running around. What you're exposing your children to, that's what makes them the exception, not the rule.
No dispute there, Armstrong. It doesn't negate my earlier supposition, which is that withstanding all those dynamics, at the end of the day, the psychology of broke is just that, a psychology. And what broke creates is a sense of defeat, a sense of failure, and in many cases, it is the catalyst to depression. And if we invest in teaching people how to navigate through that experience, even those that are experiencing the despair and the hopelessness that you described due to their environment, their circumstances, what have you, have the capacity to navigate their way out of it.
Well, the only issue there, Milo, is the fact that mistakes cost money. And I can tell you firsthand that I also grew up in an entrepreneur background. My dad's an entrepreneur, my uncle's entrepreneurs. My mom actually has been a manager ever since I was younger at different companies. But the main thing that I learned as a young adult in trying to create my own financial wealth and stability is that you're going to make mistakes that are going to cost you money. And I've had to get bailed out by my parents, by mentors, I've had to get bailed out a number of times now, and it's not because I'm irresponsible, but it's because I have that hunger, and I didn't necessarily have the the full resources that I thought I had in the situation. So I was burned in some situations, but luckily I had certain family members that were there to pick me up because they were the ones who inspired me to be an entrepreneur. But, being broke, that definitely had used my last to try to create, a situation for myself and ended up putting myself in a worse situation. And if I didn't have these certain people in my life, I would not be sitting here today, to be honest. That's where I'm standing.
You won't find an argument from me on that.
Because I feel like you understand. All I'm saying is that sometimes, we feel like, broke is just a mindset, but it is. But I do have to admit that the only thing that's gotten me to this point is that once I was able to bounce back, it wasn't on my own merit, actually. And that's the part that scares me about some people who are in situations where they are broke, because it's not even it's out of their hands at that point, because they are trying and they do want to necessarily learn what it takes to actually get out of the situation, obviously, but it's more than just knowledge. It actually takes capital.
But
one of the things that is missing from this conversation and this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for some time. In my earlier days, before I gave up speaking engagements, I literally do no speaking engagements now. I just don't do it. We get tons of invitations, but I just don't do it. But as recently as 2 years ago, maybe, when I would find myself in inner city and urban America, and I would speak to these kids, the school of principals who were always hesitant about my coming in because I was, to them, tainted by the conservative label. But the kids connected to me so well, and he actually blew me away. And you know what always shocked me about my interaction with the kids, especially because, there's something about black kids. If they're talking to someone that they perceive as black, and of course I look black, they're going to open up. And they literally, many of them have never met white people. In fact, their parents don't trust them. They're encouraged not to. You'd be shocked. And why do I tell that story? Because let me tell you, to be successful in life, to build businesses, to grow and whatever, you can't afford to leave anybody behind. You've got to have a mentality that everyone is an entrepreneur opportunity to take you to where you need to go. You've got to learn how to network. But if you're building in the kids, not only that you cannot trust certain people, just like the ignorance of what happened in this country and what the reason why we had these affirmative action laws on the book, because whites thought that blacks were less than, they were subhuman, they were incompetent. They wouldn't even go into the hospital. Even you have that ignorance today, sometimes it pops up that a white person doesn't want to go in because there's a black nurse or a black doctor, which is, it's just so crazy. I don't want to give much time to it. But what I'm saying to you, when you teach your children that, you cripple them for a lifetime. The thing that my parents taught me, that despite the racism and all those other isms, even though his brothers gave him a hard time about introducing me to Senator Strom Thurmond, my father said, listen, if Strom Thurmond is a racist, if Strom Thurmond will never change, that may be true, but don't deny my boy a chance to find out on his own, because who knows? Strom Thurmond may make his transformation with him and be the best thing that ever happened to you. Can you imagine what a reformed racist is like, what they can become? He said at least he knows what he's dealing with, and it's exactly what happened. He went all out. What that man was able to do for me was unbelievable. So, Milo, my point here is that a lot of these kids are already crippled by what their parents are teaching them, and they become that.
No, absolutely. And and I'm not suggesting that you've implied this, but just for the purpose of clarity, I don't think this is something that's limited to the black community.
No, it's not.
This is a problem that permeates our entire culture. America was built on entrepreneurialism and responsible risk taking, and we've lost a lot of that. And what we're experiencing today is, in many respects, attributable to that transition away from responsible risk taking to I need a guaranteed home run and I'm going to risk big for play and for self-gratification than for responsible and growth, and we're feeling it. I listen to these young guys, and I'm glad that I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and the thing I especially like is the respectful argument. Hey, you know what? We don't necessarily agree with you, and here's why. That evidence is thinking, and that's the only thing that changes anything in our culture. So if we can get more of that, we'll come out of our situation. But going back to the core of this discussion, I will go to my grave always feeling that the condition of broke is a function of my mindset, and that if I apply myself, I can change the circumstance. And if I look to people who share that philosophy, I can always secure and find hope. But I think one of the things that young brother said earlier that is very critical, and I hope the audience hears it, is none of us are islands. We can't do it our own. And none of us have accomplished anything that we've accomplished, good, bad, or otherwise, without some help. Good, bad, or otherwise as well. And when I took my knockdown in '89, if I didn't have friends that had confidence and trust in me to bolster me and help hold me up so that I could rebuild, I never would have been able to.
You just have to put your pride aside sometimes. It could be a crutch towards your biggest success.
The what's the tunnel and bridge now in New York? $9 to cross the Triborough Bridge. $9 and your pride, you can get across the bridge.
I love it when we have conversations like this, because Milo is so right. My father always taught us, you never do anything by yourself. It's a team. You got a network. And he says sometimes the people you think going to help you, that you think don't share your belief system, that you think that are the opposite side of what you believe, turns out to be the best ally and the best thing for you. Because his bottom line was that because God created, find the good in it. You can always find the bad, but find the good in it and make it yours and grow something from that good. And so I'm open. I don't close doors, but it's true. I could never in any aspect have the success I have today without people, mentors. And I would tell you this, and Milo will agree with this. What Milo is not telling you is this. It is so hard rebuilding. There is so much sacrifice in building a business and creating wealth. People think that people who are wealthy and create wealth and create businesses, all they have to do is show up. We work so hard. We make so many sacrifices. There are so many things that we have to sit up in the morning, that have to figure out, have to navigate, sometimes have to compromise. It is never easy. And my point is, where do you get the character and the stamina and the discipline and the work ethic, and at least hang in there, even though you may not be able to see the corner when you're rebuilding? You know in yourself there's something that's burning that nobody else can understand. You know it's going to work out. Where did they get that from, Milo? That is critical.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, and it always struck me because I've always had it, but I don't know what creates it in me. I don't know why you look at two people and one guy will look for the job and won't do anything until he has a job, even if the job is less than he wants. The perceived security of that job is so important that they're incapacitated. And then there's the people like you and I that do it over and over and over again, take horrific knockdowns. I mean, I wouldn't wish my knockdown of 89 on my worst enemy. But having gone through it, it didn't change my mindset one iota about how I intended to live my life. So Armstrong, I wish I had an answer, but I honestly don't. I haven't a clue as to where it comes from.
I mean, I think it comes from general purpose. I think you understand that you have a purpose, and it may be in line with the purpose that your parents instilled in you at such a young age, whereas to this point where it's not even a conscious thing for you. But I know with myself, there was a point where I knew that I wanted to make money, but more importantly, I knew I wanted to be happy with my life, and I wanted to leave a legacy. So I figured that it was all about my purpose at the end of the day.
We'll continue this. AG, CW, Milo, strong today. Army, the phone lines are open. 1-866-620-6620. Streaming live. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Milo, there's a reason why so few people in this country is in the top 10% of the 1%. There is something about that 1 to 10% that they all have in common. And you know what? I almost say sometimes you almost have to be crazy and insane to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're not as stable. I mean, I'm not saying you got some mental issues, but listen,
You have to be crazy.
Milo, you have to be crazy sometimes, man. When you think about what we've faced, what we've had to build back. Are you kidding me? Listen, when I went through No Child Left Behind, I lost 90% of my clients. Okay, my legal bills was over $500,000. I had no income, no money come in for almost 4 years.
Yep.
Do you hear me? And you know what? And you know the funny thing about it? Here's the funny thing about it. And Nancy knows to tell you, I was always calm. Because in a time of crisis, you never panic. You never get emotional. You just got to steady the ship. You got to cut back. You got to dump fuel. You got to just cut back. You got to lay low. And you got to be like a snake. You're just waiting on something to bite. You're just waiting, something coming along. Then you just grab it. Then let it go. You just got to grab it and just hold on to it until it starts growing again. That's what you got to do. You have to be like an animal, you got to be like a praying mantis. You got to literally be out there on the hunt, praying on something. You're in a reception. Is this it? Is this the person you're listening? And then you got to go through magazines. You got to read. You got to go through receptions. Who's coming to town? Who you're trying to network with? You've got to become really creative and busy, almost crazy. But guess what? You're not as crazy as you think 4 or 5 years later. Milo, it pays off.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But listen, you wouldn't trade it for anything, would you?
You know something, Armstrong? It's funny because even with all the ups and downs over this 30-year career, no, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, you wouldn't. You just wouldn't.
The thing I always tell people is, I go through the ups and downs, and they would panic a lot of people. But my down is still better than 90% of the United States population's up.
Say that. Now, that's the truth. That is the truth.
Exactly. And that's just the U.S. We're not even talking about the world.
Yeah.
I have the same sentiment. It's funny because obviously I'm not in the same tax bracket or level of entrepreneurship as you guys, but for myself, it's more so the sport of it all. Anyone can get a job. I have friends who have great jobs doing big things, Morgan and Stanley and J.P. Morgan and these big, investment firms. But they look up to me because it's like, Charlton, you really take the risks of creating your own brands, of actually going out here and putting yourself on the line and taking upon yourself to be your own main asset and resource. And it's like, yeah, because for myself, I'm literally the only thing I know I can depend on. And any downfall I've had in the past is because I simply doubted myself. So now I make sure that I am learning and making sure that I do put myself in situations where I can, monetize certain relationships. But when it comes to just business and entrepreneurship, it's such a thrill for myself to see things go from thought to fruition in my own plans. When you're working for someone, they tell you what you need to get done and when. And the process is laid out for you, or you have to figure it out. But, when you have to create the vision and then implement the vision and then execute the vision, it's a thrill like nothing that you'll ever experience until you've done something like that.
You're here.
Well, look, all I can say is this. Thank God you're in America.
Yeah, because you know something? There's really no place else in the world where you can do it.
Thank you. No place.
No place.
No.
No place like this where you can start over even when you crash.
There is no place in the world where you can buy real estate and live as close as I live to the capital. Think about it, Milo.
I hear what you're saying.
No, I've had international clients come here that make me realize, they'll tell you, in their country, you cannot get property close to the capital. You can't live that close. It's a different world. Those are the things just shock me, the things that we take for granted here in the
Armstrong,
United States.
it's funny. As you know, I've traveled all over the world. And I'm driving the other day, and we actually drove up to New York, and going down the interstate, and my wife and I were chatting on how I was in Zambia 2 years ago, and we were watching road crews in Zambia, and it was 300 guys on the side of the road with shovels, no backhoe, no hydraulics, just 300 guys with shovels. And here, they're fixing a pothole. There's a backhoe. There's a steamroller. There's 8 guys supervising the 2 that are actually working, and not one of them has a shovel.
That's real.
And we just take it for granted. Simple things like guardrails and painted lines on the highways, and traffic lights. I've been to so many places around the globe where those things are anomalies.
And that's the true essence of being broke. When you have to take into account that it's proportionate, you're talking about these other countries, and they also have great wealth, and certain people that do have great wealth, but overall a lot of these countries are also poor. So, that's why, although I haven't gotten to travel as, extensively as you guys, it's definitely something that I know, growing up here, that I do have the chance to do great things because great things are done around me on a consistent basis. And I actually had the chance to speak with a businessman from Ireland, and he was pretty much telling me that the reason why he's successful because he finds things to invest in over here, and he does a lot of traveling over here, and he calls me up and asks me about certain markets over here. And it's funny because he's like, Ireland is desolate in terms of business, and things are declining. So again, it harps on the fact that although our country may be in debt, we are still a very wealthy nation, and we breed entrepreneurship, and we breed opportunity that causes our citizens to understand that we have to also reflect the country in which we live.
Yep. I'll share a funny story with you. A number of years ago, whenever I go to Paris, I usually hire the same driver to drive my wife and I while we're there. So we've developed a relationship with this driver and his wife, and he had mentioned that he had never been to the United States. So my wife and I invited he and his wife to come and visit us in the United States. And he graciously accepted our offer. So my kids and I got in the car and drove to Kennedy Airport to pick them up. And this is, 12, 15 years ago. And we went to pick them up, and we drove back to our house, and we had a modest house in the North Shore of Long Island, 2,600 square feet, third of an acre, North Shore. Nothing extraordinary, nothing extravagant. And as we pulled up to the house, the wife of our chauffeur from Paris said to my wife, "How many families live here?" And my children were astonished. They were like, "Well, what do you mean? This is our house." And she proceeded to share with them that in France, a house that size would have at least 2, and in many cases 3 families living in it, or at least 3 generations, 2 or 3 generations of the same family. And my kids were astonished at this, this representation. And that's middle-class living in a country, a developed country like France. So Americans, have a distorted view of the globe, and they think that our situation here is the statistical norm. And it cracks me up to listen to, middle-class Americans whine about how bad their circumstances are in this challenging economy, when they have no clue as to how literally, 7/10 of the rest of the world is living.
It's pretty ridiculous. Because I know I have a couple of friends who walk around and complain about not having the latest cell phone. And sometimes I make a side crack to them, but I have to remind them that, people overseas still have the phones that we had in, say, 95 when they're worrying about the iPhone 5. And it's ridiculous that so many people take for granted the life that they have here in America that they don't realize that there are other people our age that are walking at least 2 miles a day just to get some clean water for their family.
Oh, and the worst part about it is that psychology permeates all levels.
All levels.
And I know guys at the airport where I keep my aircraft who are complaining because they've had to downsize their aircraft, or they can't fly 200 hours a year. They can only afford to fly 100 hours a year now.
Oh, jeez.
And all I can do is laugh
upset.
and go, you're lucky you're not, riding your bike to the airport and flying a pedal plane.
Yes.
I'd probably be riding my bike to my destination.
It's funny because, as you said, it permeates through every level. I have friends who we would consider broke on a lower economic scale, but at the same time they're upset because the Jordans went up to $275 instead of $250, or with small things like that just make you wonder, like, all right, I think I understand why it is you are going to continue to be broke because of your spending habits, but at the same time, people in other countries don't even care, don't even have shoes, so it's like you're broke, but you're not that broke, because if we dropped you off in some of these third world countries, you would really see what true poverty is,
Let me shift gears on you guys for a second. You guys are, two young up-and-comers.
Hold that story when you come back. Milo Pinckney, Charlton Woodyard, Alexander Graham, Abbott Graham. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean, only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on The Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform healthcare? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Milo, tell your story. Tell your story, Milo.
No, not a story. I had a question for the guys.
Okay.
You know, we're in. It's interesting. We're in a time where there's nobody alive today who has ever experienced an economic environment like the one we're experiencing right now. Who, when I say alive, who actually operated a business during the last depression of this magnitude. And the unemployment is at an all-time high in this generation's business cycle. And yet, one of the most challenging things to do as an entrepreneur today is to hire even decent people. Forget good people, decent people. How are you young guys who are coming up now navigating around that obstacle of hiring talented people?
Well, I know of myself, it's funny that you actually asked because I'm in the process of hiring a friend of mine, and these are all relationships that I've established in places such as school or through other relationships with other friends of mine. The way I find talent is that I am fortunate enough to actually attract certain talents because of some of the things I've done in the past. So people who feel that they're up to par, communicate with me that they're good at what they do. For example, I have an artist, a friend of mine. He actually just graduated, and he is a designer. He is a graphic designer as well as a clothing designer. He can sew, but first and foremost, he's an artist. So I was looking for a designer, but it was one of those things I didn't want to put it out there to the world because everyone and their mom thinks they're designers, and they all think they're talented. But I was blessed enough to have him actually fall in my lap, and that doesn't really answer your question, but sometimes when, you let the world know what you're doing, those who have talent and they think that they can compliment you will actually come to you. And that's happened a good number of times, and at least I've experienced that a couple of times now, whereas I don't necessarily have to put a Craigslist ad or anything like an ad on LinkedIn or anything like that. But at the same time, I do operate in a good group of young people who are motivated and talented. So when you put the word out there, you're bound to get someone who may be able to fulfill certain roles. That answers that question at all.
Well, this almost something similar. The same happened to me back in starting in high school with my my budding music career as a producer. I put out my music and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for any artists." And I was swarmed with a lot of talent because I guess I was very good. I was actually very good, but. So a lot of the talent that would come in, I would weed through it because some of the people truthfully didn't have the talent, so I didn't want to work with them. But then I took the real promising ones, and I worked and I did projects with them. Unfortunately, the majority of them didn't share the drive that I had towards what we were doing musically, so they ventured off into other fields. Well, I'm fortunate to still be working with very talented artists, especially one of them, which is my roommate's brother, who's also joining me at college this year. So hopefully we have a lot of big major plans in store for school to really propel his music career as well as mine into orbit.
So Milo, what did you take from listening to both of their responses?
Well, I don't know that it hit the goal. I guess where I'm really going with this, Armstrong, is that our organization has tripled in size over the last 3 years, and each year we find a bigger challenge in hiring people. And we run ads regularly for new hires, especially in the areas of sales. And what I am finding in this economy is that there's a whole lot of people looking for salaries and very few people looking for real earning opportunities. And when presented with them, absent guarantees that can't be supported by their productivity, there's a whole segment of our population that is willing to remain unemployed than take a risk and accept a job that pays them on their performance. And I think that's one of our problems in the country today, that people don't seem to want to be held accountable to perform.
Yeah, I definitely
agree. And I'm just curious whether or not some of these young guys are experiencing the same thing in their crowd, and from what they're saying, it's apparent that they are.
Yeah, we definitely are. I actually recently just got my real estate license, and I've encouraged some of my friends to do the same. And some of the feedback I've gotten is, what's like how much you get paid an hour? Like, what's the salary? And I tell them it's a commission-based industry. And they're like, so if no one buys a house from me, I don't sell a house and I don't get paid. I'm like, yes, that's how a lot of stuff work, That's just how the world needs to be at this point, because no one has money to waste on someone that is just on the clock. I've read numerous case studies about companies that have lost a lot of money paying workers by the hour, when in actuality, they should not have been getting that money, and when they look at their competition in other countries, it's like not only are they getting paid less, but it's like their production is way higher. So, there's a lot of retail opportunities that are commission-based that people shy away from, and there's a lot of sales positions that people shy away from. But little do they know, there are very successful people in different sales opportunities because of their own individual drive and their own branding of themselves, who are able to take advantage of stuff like that. So, I do have friends that are able to take advantage of sales opportunities because they have established themselves as somewhat of a person who to come to for stuff like that, and they've created platforms online to be effective. So in order to touch on that again, it's just a matter of, I know that when you connect with different college programs, for myself, I like working with younger people. Obviously, I'm a little younger, but when it comes to older people, I've realized that they are expecting a check based on past stuff that they have on their resume, and it's like, well, I don't know you from Adam or Eve, so when it comes to your actual getting compensated, it's based on your performance. And a lot of industries are that way that I've operated in the past, so it makes sense to me. So when I talk to these people, I'm almost confused because I also have a background in club promotion and event promotion, and we used to have a system where you would only get paid based on the amount of people that came in on your guest list or with your passes. And at first, I was shying away from that, and it kind of upset me because it's like, hey, what if they don't come in with our passes, but they knew to come through me? But it came to a point where it's about how efficient you are and what you do. So make sure that doesn't happen almost. And once you get good enough, that's when you do get a percentage of the door or whatnot. But you do have to prove yourself, and people don't want to prove themselves today.
And it's true. It's fascinating that you bring that up, because I did recently, like about a week ago, I read an article that said that businesses that work based on commission have better results compared to the jobs that are paid hourly. And that made me think, looking back at the jobs that I worked, that's
always been the case, by the way.
Yeah. But looking back at jobs looking at the jobs that I had working hourly, a lot of the employees, a lot of my coworkers, they would check in, punch in the clock, and then they would proceed to do nothing. They would proceed to sit there and watch the clock tick, and then they do little menial chores that, their responsibilities, and then they'd do nothing. And they'd continue to do nothing until it was time to punch out again, and then they'd punch out, and they'd go home and they'd happy another payday. And you
want to know something? I'll tell you something. You'll be amazed by. Years ago, I ran an MSO, Management Service Organization in New York, and we employed physicians. And you want to take a skilled professional and turn them into a lazy underperformer? Put a physician on a salary.
It makes sense. I guess they saw nobody.
Because the minute people feel that there's They don't have to perform. They elect not to. There's a micro segment of the population that will maximize performance absent a compelling incentive. And the most compelling incentive is, I don't perform, I don't eat.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's funny that you mentioned
So,
that.
if there's any advice I can share with you young guys who are coming up in the ranks now, develop your business models, whatever those business models be, but develop them on accountable people who eat what they kill.
Exactly.
It's harder. You'll have more ups and downs, but over the long run, you'll do better.
I appreciate that knowledge, sir.
Yeah, appreciate that advice.
Well, that comes from experience and a little wisdom. And that's why I'm just sitting back taking it all in as Milo just tell you the truth. I'm telling you, all business follow a formula, all of it. It just doesn't happen. And for those that get it quickly, like those that win the lotto, they lose it. And they're in worse debt than they were before because they have no appreciation for it, no respect for it. There's nothing like working by the sweat of your brow where you earn it. Even for people who come from these wealthy families and their parents give it to it, that's why the kids squander it. They have no appreciation for it. Right, Milo? Got to work
Absolutely.
for it.
Nothing more rewarding.
Nothing more than
Nothing in the world more rewarding
than when you work for it. And let me tell you something. When you work for it, baby, you're going to keep it. Nobody's going to come in there and hijack what you put together. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Milo, it's always a pleasure to break bread with you, brother. You always bring your A game. I don't even know what your A minus game is like. I've never seen that. I only get your A game every week in, week out. Could you give them your webpage address again?
www.yellowllama.com.
Yellow Llama.
Yellow Llama. And there's not a day that we're not looking for new salespeople that are looking for an opportunity.
We'll
and
give
if
you
you're
a
an
call.
entrepreneur, or more importantly, if you're an entrepreneur wannabe, Yellow Llama's there to help you get started on your path.
Well, Milo, remember Charlton Woodyard and Alexander Abbott Graham, because we are going to definitely be in contact.
Well, you know how to reach me.
Definitely.
Yes,
on
we
the
do.
radio.
You'll find one thing else that I always do.
What is that?
I take phone calls from anybody. You're never too big in this game to take a phone call.
I like that.
I like that, too.
I like that. I give you a shout on that, Milo. Milo, thank you for joining us.
Our pleasure.
All right, take care. You young guns, I'm telling you, you young Americans are getting better. Just better at times, getting more relaxed. Alex is getting more relaxed.
We're just trying to find our groove a little bit. We got some good people showing us the way, though.
So you guys really want to become entrepreneurs? Is that the goal?
It's the only way to live.
Listen, you want to be like Mike.
Eat what you kill.
Eat what you kill, baby. And then you can kill what you eat. Good day, everybody.